Hey guys, it's Shaylin and I'm here today with another video. So today we're starting a new series. It's going to be a series of book recommendations and we're going to start with a compilation of my favorite genre, maybe even my favorite topic, unhinged women. You know, like just weird freaky women doing weird freaky stuff. Also, yes, new lens. Do you like how blurry everything is? It's really fancy. You can thank Reedsy for that one. Before we jump into the video, I just want to quickly introduce this series and my vision for it. I never considered doing other book videos on this channel because I do my recent reads videos and people don't really watch them. And I totally get it, right? Like, for the most part, people subscribe to this channel because it's a writing channel. These are all going to be bonus videos, so they're never going to take away from the writing content on this channel. I'm expecting to do maybe around one a month, but not on any schedule. And I kind of just wanted to do book recs based on vibes. I also will fess up and say that I have a complete and utter god complex about my taste in literature. I really do think that I have, like, prime taste in books. More than anything, I love pushing my taste in books on other people. It's one of life's greatest joys. So we're starting with the Bible of unhinged women literature, The Girls by McKnight. This book follows Evie. She's a teenager who lives in California in the 1960s, and the book follows her as she is basically inducted into a cult inspired by the Manson family. The energy is absolutely unhinged. The prose is just sensory and delectable. I remember reading this super quickly and being so enthralled because the characters were so compelling, the plot was so compelling, and the prose on like a sensory level was just so compelling. This book is definitely like one of my personality traits. And if you read it, it will also become one of your personality traits, so do be warned of that, but it is worth it. You will bring it up in every conversation. I had to follow this up with actually my favorite novel of all time, History of Wolves by Emily Fridlund. I've talked about this book extensively because I am obsessed with it. This book follows a teenager named Linda who lives on an abandoned commune in Minnesota. It's just her and her parents left. In the first chapter of the novel, her teacher, who she was working with quite closely because she was doing like a history project that he was sponsoring, is arrested for possession of child pornography. And as after this happens, Linda becomes enamored with a young family who move in across the lake. It's a mother with her 2-year-old son, Paul, and Linda starts babysitting. And the whole time, there is just the sense that something is off. The prose is clean and accessible, but also so rich and atmospheric and perceptive. The main character, Linda's character psychology, is really what makes the book. The entire book is painted so thickly in her worldview, and she is the feral, unhinged teenager that we want to read about. What I find so impressive about this book is the looming sense of wrongness and discomfort hanging under the story. You always feel like something is wrong, even when you don't know what it is. When it's finally revealed, the way that the book is structured around that reveal is honestly so brilliant. Now, we cannot talk about unhinged women without talking about Ottessa Moshfegh, one of my favorite authors. First, I want to talk about Eileen. I think Eileen does take the award for like Unhinged Woman of the Year. So this book follows the title character, Eileen. She is a secretary at a boys' juvenile prison. At the beginning of the book, a new counselor arrives at the prison and Eileen becomes pretty enamored by her, which leads her into a pretty bizarre and horrific crime. The book only takes place over 1 week, and even though a decent chunk of the book is just dedicated to Eileen, walking you through her daily routine, her day-to-day life, she is such a disgustingly unhinged person that it's kind of fascinating. She is one of the weirdest but most compelling characters I have ever read. She has a lot of really bizarre habits and things that she does that are just really grotesque. If you have a weak stomach, this book might not be for you. Pretty graphic, it's a pretty extreme read, so do be aware of that. But if you're okay with some pretty gross content, she's a pretty unforgettable character. Probably Ottessa Moshfegh's most well-known book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. She does something very different here, but equally compelling by following an unnamed woman who lives in New York who is just dissatisfied with her life, and so she decides she wants to sleep for a year, which is the mood. This book really captures the hazy, disorienting feeling of a dream. The main character here is, similarly to Eileen, disdainful, unlikable, and yes, unhinged, but so compelling that personally I just want to read on. One of my most recent reads in a book I am currently obsessed with, The Lightness by Emily Temple. This book follows teenage Olivia, who goes to spend the summer at a meditation retreat for girls, where she meets a trio of girls who are trying to learn how to levitate. This is so feral, like everything about it. The main character is, on the surface, kind of normal, but under the surface, hiding this repressed feral quality that I think, you know, just all teenage girls have. Like, that's why we should fear them, but also give them the world. It's written in these really concise, punchy scenes. It's like every single scene is a little pocket of interestingness that you can't look away from. This book really has it all. There's beautiful writing, chaotic bisexual energy, teenage girls starting a feral meditation cult. If you're looking for something really quick, really short, I would recommend Sweet Days of Discipline by Fleur Jaeggy. This book follows Eve, who is a student at a Swiss boarding school. She becomes obsessed with winning the affection of a fellow student named Frederic, and proceeds so with absolutely lethal unhinged energy. This book is told in a very zoomed out format. It's a lot of narrative summary. It covers a lot of distance very quickly. But the main character is so interesting and so compelling that you don't feel disengaged from the story. You actually feel so fully enraptured in her freaky little worldview. I read this in just one sitting. It's super enthralling. So if you have a short attention span, or you're in a reading slump, or you've been struggling just to get through books, I have been there lately. This is the perfect read. One thing that I typically loathe is writing about writing. Books or stories where the main character is a writer. The one book that really does writing about writing right is Bunny by Mona Awad. This book is kind of like if you took Mean Girls, mixed it with Donnie Darko, made it a dark academia, and then every single character was just on bath salts. The book follows Sam, who is in an MFA program, and she doesn't really like the other women in her cohort. And the other girls in her cohort are in this freaky little clique. And the book follows Sam basically getting inducted into their little cult. It's insane. Everything about this book is utterly bizarre, but Mona Awad just took that and ran with it. If you have ever been in a writing program, you especially need to read this because it's really perceptive and satirical about writing programs and some of the really ridiculous things that we do. I found it very accurate. I definitely felt too seen at several points. I was like, okay, I have said that, I have done that. Ugh. The next book was very divisive, but that's how you know that an unhinged woman book was done well, if a lot of people hated it. Because a lot of people can't handle the unhinged energy. But those of us who can will be rewarded. And many people could not handle the unhinged energy of Treasure Island by Sara Levine, not to be confused with the original book Treasure Island. This book follows an aimless young woman who's pretty dissatisfied with her job and her life, who reads Treasure Island and becomes obsessed with it and decides to reinvent her life around the main core beliefs of the book, which she identifies as boldness, resolution, independence, and horn blowing. She decides that this is going to be her manual on how to live. She gets herself a parrot, and the book follows her basically destroying all of her relationships by being obsessed with Treasure Island. The protagonist is really interesting and weird, but really compelling and kind of heartbreaking and tragic, even though on the surface she comes across as humorously despicable. The next book takes a bit of a dystopian twist. It's The Water Cure by Sophie MacIntosh. This book follows three sisters who have grown up with their parents on an isolated island and never interacted with anyone else. When their father disappears one day and two strange men wash up ashore, it completely changes their world. Not only are the characters unhinged, it's more that the world they're in is unhinged. They have this bizarre little dystopian utopia, freaky cult thing going on. A lot of these books are about cults. What can you do? And learning about their rituals and how they live is so compelling because it's so bizarre. It definitely has like a Handmaid's Tale kind of vibe. So if, like me, you're not a Margaret Atwood stan, but you want some of that energy in your life, this right here. One of the most absolutely unhinged books I've ever read is The Vegetarian by Han Kang. Nothing can prepare you for what is in these pages. It's a very small book, it's a very quick read, but it's absolutely freaky. This book follows a woman named Young-hee and her husband. At the beginning of the book, actually on the first page, Young Hee announces that she is becoming a vegetarian. This seemingly simple revelation takes a not so simple plot turn as it completely changes the dynamic of their marriage for the most feral. There's nothing that I can say that can prepare you for absolutely how bizarre and just wacky a book about a woman becoming a vegetarian could be. You kind of just need to read it and see for yourself. It's really quick. If you like weird literature, this is the book for you. It's so freaky and existential and weird. Told in very clean, accessible prose. It will become progressively more and more bizarre as you read, and you just gotta roll with it. You just gotta commit to that. You gotta be okay with that and ready for that, although nothing can really prepare you for that. So I wanted to throw in a short story collection for all my short story readers out there. Fen by Daisy Johnson. This is a collection of darkly fabulistic stories that take place all in the same small English countryside town. It has the most witchy vibes. It's so amphibious and atmospheric, and it just has the energy of like a little witch's hut. It's great. If you like short fiction and you like women being super freaky, this is the book for you. So we're gonna take a slight turn here. Let's talk about Luster by Raven Leilani. Now, this isn't like the rest of the books where it's like a bunch of women who are like, and I'm gonna do war crimes now, and you're like, yes. This is a subtler type of unhinged. It's the type of unhinged ennui that is very relatable, you know, the unhinged kind of quality of a viral tweet. This book follows publishing assistant Eddie, who starts seeing a man who is in an open marriage, and through a series of events, she ends up living with him where she meets his wife and his adopted daughter, who is black, and Eddie realizes that she's now the only other black person in the daughter's life. It's just, it's so good. This was actually my favorite read of 2020. So it's not unhinged in the like feral insane way, but Eddie is just like unhinged in the way that we're all unhinged. She's unhinged in the way that late stage capitalism is making us all unhinged. She's an absolutely hilarious but really like tenderly written, heartfelt narrator. The writing here actually structurally reminds me a bit of The Lightness by Emily Temple. They're both written in pretty short scenes, and each scene just serves you up this little pocket of vivid, interesting deliciousness. It's definitely much subtler and more grounded and not like as insanely wacky as the other books that I've been talking about. It's more of like an aimless existential millennial woman type of vibe than an unhinged woman type of vibe. But if you like unhinged women fiction, I think you will also like this. Now we do just need to give it up for the queen here, Lauren Groff, with her book Fates and Furies. I do love Lauren Groff. This is something we've established. You know how when people usually think of literary fiction, they think all literary fiction is about upper middle class white couples going through divorce? However, this book is, but it's the only valid book on the subject to have ever been written. Why? Because she did it in the most unhinged way possible. Lauren Groff is just an incredible prose writer. I love her style. She has a really original, unique, distinctive voice, but it's so delectable. This book follows and chronicles the marriage of Lotto and Mathilde. Did I pronounce either of their names correctly? I don't know. I'm not cultured. And the first half of the book is from Lotto's point of view, the second half is from Mathilde's point of view, as we chronicle the development of their marriage, and also it's falling apart. However, everything that happens is just, it's so dramatic. Like, I cannot even begin to convey the drama. This plotline is so juicy. There's tea. There's tea, there's drama, there's gossip. You know, if you want the energy of like a trashy reality show, but then you also want it to be written like a philosophy book, you might think that those two things would spontaneously combust, but they actually combine perfectly into this book. First half is enjoyable from Lotto's point of view, but the book cracks open when you get to Mathilde's point of view. Within 2 pages of her point of view, I was obsessed. I had been enjoying the book up until that part, but once you get to her point of view, there's just this dynamic reframing of the entire narrative, and it's amazing. And normally I'm not really a big fan of books that make you wait for it. Like, just include the good stuff now. Don't make me read for like 200 pages before I get to the good stuff. But in this book, it actually works. That tailspin in the middle is everything to me, and you really see Mathilde at her most unhinged. One thing you may be saying is, Shaylin, why are you making an unhinged women video? What about unhinged men? Well, I thought about it and I was like, unhinged men is not really a genre, and then I realized, oh, that's just called serial killer fiction. But if you're looking for a book that bravely says women can also be serial killers, then you should read My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This book is so good. The main character is a nurse whose sister, Ayula, is a serial killer. Her sister keeps murdering her boyfriends. There's a really interesting stark contrast between these two characters. Corady, the main character, she's a really like methodical, kind of like straight-laced person. She likes to do everything by the book. She's very careful. Whereas her sister Ayula is just really unhinged and flamboyant, and she's like an Instagram influencer. She's super entitled, and obviously she has a bit of a violent streak. The book is told in really brief, quick chapters. It's a super quick read, so if you want something really easy to read, really easy to get into, this is perfect because it's told through really quick scenes. The writing is super accessible, but the plot is also so enthralling that you can't put it down. I think I read this in like 1 or 2 settings. There's a lot of dark humor, which is really fun. I think if you like Ottessa Moshfegh, because she does a lot of dark humor, I think you would also like this and vice versa. So for the last book in this video, we're talking about Water Shall Refuse Them by Lucie McKnight Hardy. This book follows 16-year-old Nif, who goes to stay in Wales with her family over the summer during like a terrible heat wave. Her family is basically falling apart, and Nif kind of starts engaging in her own ritualistic witchcraft. Nif is a feral little child whom I fear with my life. If you like Midsummer or The Witch, then I think you'll really like this because there's a very similar energy with that kind of like, you know, farmer's market horror. You can just sense this looming disaster, but you don't know what it is, and it really keeps you on edge. The end really wows. Like, I was really... If you have Unhinged women book recommendations, I need them. I need all of them. Please let me know in the comments. I'm excited to carry on with this series, so if it's something that you enjoy, please let me know, and I'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. We'll do some other freaky little theme for the next one. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, you can always send me an ask on Tumblr, and I'll see you in another video.